By the end of this video, you're going to know the exact safe dollar range that you can move toward your grandkids' milestones this year. Tutoring, sports, music, whatever it is for your family, without touching a single dollar of your own retirement core. And there's one IRS approved way to cover those costs directly with zero tax friction. I'm going to show you exactly how it works. To show you how this actually plays out, I want you to picture a grandmother. Let's call her Diane. She's sitting in her car on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, parked outside a music studio. She's watching her granddaughter through the studio glass during a violin lesson. She's got a notepad on the passenger seat, and she's doing some mental math that's about to change how she thinks about her entire estate plan. Diane's granddaughter, Maya, she's 10. She just outgrew that rental violin, the quarter-size one that she started on. Her teacher told her mom and dad plainly, look, if Maya wants to keep progressing, she needs a full-size instrument. That can be close to $1,800 right there. And that's on top of the lessons that have crept up now to about $220 a month. Diane pulls out her phone and looks at her son's David. What's David's situation? Look, David isn't reckless with the money. He works 50 hours a week as an operations manager. He makes close to double what Diane and her husband made at this age. And he is still stretched thin every single month. Because here's the truth. Nobody will say this out loud. The math of raising a family today is broken in a way it wasn't for our generation. Wage growth for people in their 30s and 40s has been flat against inflation now going on years. Meanwhile, the cost of the basics, tutoring, competitive youth sports, summer programs, music lessons, has climbed dramatically over the last decade. Look, David isn't struggling because he's careless. He's caught in the squeeze between a paycheck that isn't growing and the cost of raising a capable, well-rounded kid that keeps climbing. So she's sitting in that driveway and Diane realizes something, that she and her husband have money set aside. It's not earmarked for anything urgent. Savings just sitting there, quietly waiting for quote-unquote someday. And this is the moment that flips everything for her. If that money stays where it is until she and her husband are gone, what happens? David gets a check sometime maybe in his late 50s or even 60s. And by then, Maya, she's not 10 anymore. She's not in that studio anymore. And whatever years Maya needed the help, those are long past. But the money moved right now. While Diane is still here to watch Maya play, it does two things at once. It takes real pressure off of David's monthly budget today, and it lets Diane actually see it happen. She doesn't have to wait for a will to be read to know that her money mattered. She doesn't have a name for it yet, sitting there in the car. But this is what I might call the grandchild dividend. Look, it's not about spoiling a kid. It definitely isn't about handing a 10-year-old cash. It's the decision to fund real developmental milestones during the exact years your adult kids are under the most financial pressure, instead of decades later, when the moment is already gone. So, back in the car, Diane starts working through it for herself. And this is really the question every one of us, every one of you watching needs to answer for your own family. First, what's actually worth funding in the first place? Now, for our example, Diane, it's not everything Maya could possibly want. That's not what it is at all. It's not an extra. She looks at David's reoccurring bills. The violin and the lessons are exactly that. They're reoccurring. They're fixed, something that hits his budget every single month, whether he can afford it that month or not. For your family, that same category might be a tutor. It might be a club sport fee. It might be a college savings contribution. Look, the category doesn't really matter as much as the test. And that's the second thing Diane figures out. The filter she can use, does this actually relieve real pressure on my kid's household? Covering the violin and the monthly lesson bill, it does that for David, and it does it immediately. It's not some luxury item, it's a line item that's been squeezing him every single month, and now it's gone. Third, and this is the one Diane is most careful about, what's her ceiling? Because the whole thing, it falls apart if funding Maya's violin puts Diane and her husband's own retirement at risk. Look, that's not generosity, that's a mistake. So she needs a real number, not a guess, not, oh, it feels fine, an actual safe ceiling that doesn't touch what she and her husband need to live on for the next, call it, 30 years. Look, that's exactly where the numbers come in. Here's what the guardrails actually look like. Now, under the current tax law, in 2026, you can gift up to $19,000 per year per grandchild without ever filing a gift tax return or touching your lifetime exemption. Look, if you're married, you and your spouse together can gift $38,000 a year to each grandchild. For most families, funding 2 or 3 milestones a year for one grandchild may cost somewhere between, call it $2,500 and $6,000. If you've got a sound retirement plan in place, giving a modest amount each year toward a grandchild's milestone, it typically won't move the needle on your own security, but it can completely change what that year looks like for your family. Now, if you're doing that math in your head right now and you're wondering what's my safe number, whether it's $3,000 a year or $10,000 a year, that could move without touching your core retirement income, look, don't guess at it. And go over to brainflash.com, run your numbers through the retirement reality check. It's a simple tool built to separate your non-negotiable living expenses from what you actually have available as a surplus. Look, send your email over to brainflash.com. It comes right to your inbox, and you can find out your exact number, and you can do it today. Now, here's why the timing matters more than people think. Let's give you another example. Let's call him Ray. Ray and his wife are comfortable, but they're not wealthy by any stretch. A pension, some modest savings, nothing really extravagant. His granddaughter was flagged by her school in 2nd grade. She was falling behind in reading. A tutor would have run around $80 a session twice a week. Again, that's real money, but it was well within what Ray could have covered without even thinking twice. He thought about stepping in, but he hesitated. He didn't want it to look like he was saying his daughter couldn't handle her own kids' schooling. He told himself he'd help more later, once things settled down. 2 years passed. The gap, it didn't close. It widened. By 4th grade, she's in a full remediation program at school, and the confidence damage was harder to undo than the reading skill ever would have been. Ray never ever spent the $80. He also never got those 2 years back. So let's go back to Diane. How does she structure hers? So it was clean, didn't create any, awkwardness with David. She paid the violin shop directly for the instrument and set up an automatic payment directly with the studio for the lessons. A lot better than writing David a check. Now, because this is a private instructor, that money still counts towards her and her husband's annual gift exclusion. But if paying the provider directly instead of routing it through David, what happens? That keeps it simple, and it avoids any of that awkwardness about how the money gets used. Now, if Maya had been in a formal program, let's give you an example. Let's call it a private school's music department or a university-affiliated prep program, that kind of direct tuition payment can qualify for a separate, unlimited exclusion on top of your annual gift limit. But for an independent teacher, somebody in a neighborhood, a studio, the annual exclusion is the tool that you're going to work with. Now, for longer horizon, David's other goal of getting something started for Maya's education, Diane used what's called superfunding, a 529 plan under a special election. You can front load several years worth of annual exclusions into 1 year without touching your lifetime exemption, giving a grandchild's education fund a real head start, and you're doing it all at once. So, 6 months after that afternoon, when she's doing the math in her car, she's now sitting in a crowded auditorium. Maya walks out onto the stage with her new full-size violin. She puts the bow to the strings, and the sound fills the room. Diane looks over at David. He's not checking his phone. He doesn't have that tight, stressed line across his forehead anymore. He's just sitting there, completely relaxed, watching his daughter absolutely shine. Diane didn't need a will to be read to know her money, it made a difference. She's sitting in the fifth row, and she's watching it happen in real time. So look, take a look at your own family this week. What's the violin in your grandkids' lives right now? Is it a tutor, club dues, a summer program, maybe a college fund that never actually has been started yet? You spent 30, 40 years building what you have. Don't let it sit there waiting for a reading of a will when it could be building confidence and resilience and memories right now when you can actually be here to see it. Now go to brainflash.com, run that retirement reality check, find what your safe ceiling is, and start funding the moments that actually matter to them and, you know what, to you. This is Brain Flash. I'll see you in the next one.